The battlefield was quiet now. Broken ships and smoking metal lay scattered across the dry, cracked ground. The war between two alien factions had lasted for months, but today, it had ended in complete silence. Not because one side had won, but because she had arrived. No one knew her real name. They only called her the War Goddess. She stood over 10 feet tall, wrapped in shining armor that looked like it had been forged from stars. Her eyes glowed faintly, not with warmth, but with something ancient and terrifying. Her long silver hair moved even when there was no wind. No one dared speak when she appeared. Everyone, human or alien, froze in place when they saw her. She landed softly among the ruins of the battlefield. Every soldier, even those who had fought bravely moments ago, dropped their weapons and stepped back. They had heard stories of her, how she could crush warships with her bare hands, how entire fleets vanished when she moved her hand, how planets fell silent when she arrived. But there was one person who didn't run, not because he was brave, but because he didn't even know what was going on. Ethan crawled out from under a broken transport truck, coughing from the dust. He was a mechanic, not a soldier. He had been hiding, trying to fix the radio to call for help when everything went quiet. When he finally looked up, he saw her standing just a few feet away from him. His heart skipped a beat. "Ho," he whispered. Blinking, "You're tall." The War Goddess tilted her head. Her glowing eyes focused on him. Soldiers watched in horror, thinking he was about to be turned into dust. Ethan stood slowly, brushing dirt from his clothes. Listen, I don't know who you are, but if you're here to help, that's great. If not, well, this isn't really my fight anyway." No answer came from her. She just stared at him, unmoving. Ethan scratched the back of his head. "You don't have to be scary with me, all right? I'm just a guy who fixes things." Something strange happened then. Her eyes stopped glowing. Her shoulders relaxed just a little, and then she smiled. Not a wide grin, not a fake smile. It was small and quiet, like a soft light in a dark room. Everyone around them went silent. Soldiers exchanged confused glances. Was she smiling? The War Goddess smiling at a human? Ethan didn't understand what was going on, but he smiled back. "That's better," he said calmly. "I'm Ethan." The War Goddess stepped forward. People panicked, backing away. Even the alien commanders, who had once ruled over massive fleets, moved behind their guards, but she didn't attack. She stopped in front of Ethan and spoke for the first time. "Calvaria," she said. Her voice was deep, soft, and echoed like a memory from the past. Ethan nodded slowly. "That's your name." She gave the smallest nod. He smiled again. "Nice to meet you, Calvaria." A gust of wind blew across the ruined field. No one spoke. It felt like the galaxy had stopped spinning for a moment. The human camp wasn't far from where they stood. Slowly, Calvaria began to walk with Ethan toward it. Soldiers moved out of the way. No one tried to stop her. No one had the courage. Back at the camp, the human commander watched through the monitors. "What is that thing doing with him?" she asked sharply. Someone stopped her. "With respect, Commander," a young officer replied nervously. "No one wants to get near her. She's killed fleets." "What's she doing talking to our mechanic?" No one had the answer. Meanwhile, Ethan guided Calvaria past the wrecked tents and scorched equipment. "Sorry about the mess," he said casually. "We weren't expecting company." Calvaria didn't speak. She simply looked around, as if trying to understand. "You hungry?" Ethan asked. "I've got rations." "Not great, but they won't kill you?" Again, no reply, but she followed him into a half-broken shelter. He sat down on a metal crate and opened a food pack. She stood outside the doorway, watching the sky. "You can come in," Ethan said. "I promise I don't bite." She stepped inside slowly and sat across from him, her armor still glowing faintly. Ethan offered her some food. She looked at it, confused, then took it carefully and stared at the package. "You just tear the top off," he explained. "Like this?" He showed her. She copied him. Soon, she was eating her first human meal. Ethan looked at her and smiled. "See? Not so scary." Her eyes met his again, and once more, the War Goddess smiled. The next morning, the whole camp was buzzing. Soldiers whispered behind crates and peeked out from tents. Officers held quiet meetings. Drones flew overhead. Keeping watch, everyone had the same question: what was the war goddess doing in their camp? Kael'Varia had not destroyed anything. In fact, she had not even raised her voice. She stayed near Ethan, like a silent shadow. Wherever he went, she followed. She didn't speak much, only watched and listened. Ethan didn't treat her like a weapon. He treated her like a guest. "Can you pass me that wrench?" Ethan asked while fixing a broken power unit. Kael Varya looked at the tools, picked up the right one, and handed it to him. "Thanks," he said with a grin. "You're pretty good at this. Ever fixed a fusion coil before?" She looked at the glowing wires, then nodded once. Ethan chuckled. "Of course you have. I bet you've fixed ships the size of cities." She didn't reply, but her expression softened. People nearby watched in confusion. Why was she helping him? Wasn't she a goddess of war? Wasn't she supposed to be cold and dangerous? "She hasn't harmed anyone," said Officer Jennings to the camp commander. "She's quiet. She just follows Ethan around." "Yes, and that's what worries me," the commander replied. "Why him? What does she want?" No one had answers. Ethan didn't care about their meetings. He liked talking to Kael'Varia. She didn't say much, but she listened. When he joked, she tilted her head in amusement. When he explained things, she nodded thoughtfully. She seemed curious. At lunch, Ethan handed her a canteen. "You ever try human water?" She took a sip, then another. "Good, huh?" He smiled. She looked at him and spoke softly. "Clean, not poisoned." He laughed. "That's the nicest thing anyone said about our water." As the days passed, Kael'Varia started helping with more things. She lifted heavy equipment with one hand. She helped realign damaged satellite dishes. She even shielded a group of workers from a sudden sandstorm by standing in front of them, letting the wind hit her armor. People began to relax, just a little. One day, Ethan found her staring at a group of kids playing with a ball. "You want to try?" he asked. She looked confused. "What is try?" "Play like this." He walked over and kicked the ball gently. The children giggled and kicked it back. Kael'Varia stood still for a long time. Then, slowly, she stepped forward. One of the children rolled the ball toward her. She tapped it with her foot. The kids cheered. For a moment, the mighty war goddess looked almost human. But not everyone was happy. In a dark meeting room inside the command tent, human and alien leaders watched recordings of Kael'Varia. "She's too close to them," said one alien. "Officer, this is dangerous. She was created for war. What if she changes her mind? What if she's using that human to learn about us?" Another asked. "What if this is part of her plan? She's smiling now," someone said, pointing at the screen. "When was the last time she smiled?" They all looked at Ethan. Maybe he's the key. Back at the camp, Ethan sat with Kael'Varia on a high hill, overlooking the desert. "You've been quiet today," he said. She stared at the horizon. "No one has treated me like this." "Like what?" "Not like a weapon," Ethan nodded. Slowly, "Maybe that's because you're more than that." Kael'Varia looked at him. "How do you know?" "Just a feeling," he said with a small smile. "And I trust my feelings." She said nothing, but the stars reflected in her silver eyes. That night, while the camp slept, Kael'Varia stood guard outside Ethan's tent, not because he asked her to, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. She felt something new growing inside her, something soft, something strong. She didn't have a name for it yet, but it warmed her core more than any battle ever had. The desert wind was soft that evening. The sun was low, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple. Most of the camp was quiet, resting after another long day of repairs and patrols. But Ethan wasn't in his tent. He was sitting on the edge of the rocky hill, staring at the sky. Beside him, silent as always, stood Kael'Varia. Her armor reflected the fading sunlight, and her glowing eyes watched the stars slowly appear one by one. "You don't sleep much, do you?" Ethan asked without looking at her. "I do not need to," she said calmly. "Not like your kind. Must be nice, Ethan chuckled. But sleep isn't always about need. Sometimes it's just peaceful, like this. Calvaria didn't respond right away. The silence stretched between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Finally, she sat beside him. Ethan looked at her, curious. You've been around a long time, haven't you? She nodded. Double quotes, how long? Over 12,000 years. Ethan's eyes widened. 12,000. That's older than anything we know on Earth. Calvaria looked up. I was built for war, born during a time of endless conflict. My creators shaped me with metal and will. They call me a guardian. Were they like you? She shook her head. They were fragile, brilliant, but short-lived. They feared destruction, so they made me. And what happened to them? They died. She said simply, every one of them. Their enemies were many. I fought to protect them. But in the end, it wasn't enough. Ethan stayed quiet for a moment, and after that, I wandered, she said. Through dead systems, broken worlds, every time I found life, they feared me, even when I meant no harm. I guess the giant metal warrior showing up isn't easy to welcome, Ethan S. A with a small smile. She gave a soft nod. But you didn't run. Ethan looked at her. Should I have? Most do. He smiled. I'm not most. Calvaria turned her eyes to the stars again. I remember a time when stars burned brighter. Before silence took so many voices, Ethan rested his hands on his knees. You sound lonely. I have always been alone. Not anymore, he said gently. She turned to look at him. For a long moment, neither of them said anything. In the distance, a transport ship rose into the sky, carrying supplies to a nearby outpost. Its engine lights blinked against the night. Do you miss them? Ethan asked. Sometimes, other times. I wonder if I was ever meant to be part of them. You were made to protect them, right? Yes. Then maybe that was your purpose. But not the only one. Calvaria looked at him, curious. What else could I be? I don't know. Ethan said, shrugging. But you're helping. Here? Not with weapons, with work. With small things. Maybe that's part of who you are, too. She seemed to think about that for a long time. Do you know what I think? Ethan said quietly. I think you're not just a goddess of war. I think you're someone trying to find peace. Her eyes lowered. I do not know what peace feels like. Maybe this is what it looks like. He said, pointing to the calm sky, the quiet camp, the shared silence. She followed his gaze. Below the hill, soldiers walked by slowly. One of them waved at Calvaria. It was a small gesture, but she noticed. They're starting to trust you, Ethan said. I see that. You're changing, he added. Maybe that's a good thing. Calvaria stood slowly. Her tall figure cast a long shadow in the moonlight. I was never allowed to change before. Ethan got up and brushed dust off his pants. Then it's time someone let you. As they walked back to camp, something shifted inside her quiet. An unfamiliar, but warm. It wasn't a weapon or a command. It wasn't something programmed into her. It was something she chose. In the dark corners of the camp, not everyone was pleased. Inside the main control tent, several high-ranking officers studied images and reports. Video clips showed Calvaria laughing with engineers, shielding workers from storms, standing peacefully with humans. She's blending in, one officer said, concerned. Too well, another added. She's no longer acting like a weapon. She's acting like she belongs here. We must be careful. The commander said firmly. She may appear calm, but her power is still beyond anything we control. If she ever turns, the sentence didn't need to be finished. But Calvaria wasn't thinking about power or orders. She was thinking about something Ethan had said. You're not alone anymore. Those words stayed with her as the stars blinked quietly above. It began with a strange signal. Deep in the outer systems, an old satellite picked up a transmission no one had heard in centuries. It was full of static and strange pulses. Some thought it was broken. Others said it was a forgotten echo. But Calvaria heard it once and knew what it meant. She stood in front of the main screen at the human outpost, her glowing eyes fixed on the sound. Ethan stood beside her, arms crossed, waiting for her reaction. "What is it?" he asked. "They have returned," she said quietly. "Who?" "The Voikin." The room fell silent. Officers looked at each other, unsure of what to say. "I thought they were just a myth." One of them whispered. "They are not," Calvaria replied. "They are the reason my creators built me. They destroy everything. Not to conquer. Not to rule. Just to end." Ethan frowned. "Are they strong?" Calvaria slowly turned her head toward him. "They ended civilizations. Even mine." Those words were enough. Soon, all screens at the base lit up with reports, colonies going silent, ships vanishing without a trace, patrols sending out emergency signals, and then nothing. The Voikin weren't coming. They were already here. Calvaria stepped outside and looked up at the sky. The stars felt different now, colder, as if something dark was crawling through them. Ethan joined her. "What do we do?" "You prepare your people," she said. "I will go ahead." "Alone?" "It is what I was made for." Ethan reached out and gently touched her arm. "You don't have to be alone anymore." She looked at his hand, then at his face. The warmth in his voice was strange to her. "But welcome. I don't want to lose you," he added quietly. For a moment, the war goddess looked unsure. Then she gave a small nod. Inside the command tent, arguments had already started. "We can't trust her," a human general said. "She might lead the Voikin to us. She's helping us." Officer Jennings replied, "You've seen her with Ethan. She's changed. Can a war machine really change?" Someone asked. "She's more than that now," Jennings said firmly, "and we need her." But others weren't so sure. Calvaria stood at the edge of the launch pad as her old armor activated. Dark lines glowed across the plates, power humming. Beneath them, she had stayed quiet, gentle, for Ethan's sake. But now the galaxy needed what she once was, a protector. Ethan stood near the ramp. "If you're going, I'm coming with you." She looked down at him. "It will be dangerous." "You think I haven't figured that out by now?" he said with a grin. Something flickered in her expression, something close to concern. But she didn't argue. They boarded a scout ship and launched into space. Behind them, the human base watched their trail disappear into the stars. The ship was quiet inside. Ethan checked the systems while Calvaria sat still, her mind far away. "You okay?" he asked. "I have fought them before," she said. "They are not like others. They do not speak. They do not feel. They are endless. Then we fight smart," Ethan said. "We figure out what they want and stop them. They want nothing." She whispered. "They race, and they will not stop." Suddenly, alarms began to flash. A small colony ahead had gone dark. No life signs, no power, only silence. Calvaria closed her eyes. "They are here." The ship landed slowly, dust blowing around its base. The colony was quiet to quiet. Ethan walked beside her through the empty streets. Clothes were left hanging, tools dropped on the ground. No signs of struggle, just gone. "What happened to them?" he asked. "Consumed," she replied. Just then, the ground shook. Black shapes rose from the shadows. They had no eyes, no mouths, just twisted, shifting armor. They moved like liquid metal, fast and silent. Ethan aimed his weapon. "They don't look friendly." Calvaria stepped forward. "Stay behind me." The battle began. She moved faster than lightning. Her strikes powerful and precise. Her armor flared with every hit. Voikin fell one by one, but more kept coming. Ethan fired at anything that moved, staying close to her. She protected him without thinking, even taking a strike meant for him. As the last of the creatures fell, Calvaria stood still, breathing slowly. "You okay?" Ethan asked. Panting, "Yes," she replied. But this was only the beginning. They returned to the ship, and Calvaria looked at the stars again. "They are stronger now," she said. "They have found new ways. Then we find new ways, too," Ethan said. "You're not alone this time." For the first time, Calvaria believed it. The war had changed everything. Colonies were silent. Space lanes were no longer safe. Fear was spreading across the galaxy. The Voikin didn't talk, didn't demand, they only attacked. And everywhere they went, they left behind nothing but stillness Yet hope remained, not because of fleets or firepower, but because of something unexpected, because of her. Calvaria, the war goddess, was no longer fighting alone. This time, she had someone beside her, someone who believed in more than just power. Ethan. They had seen what the Void King could do. Now they needed to do something new, something no one expected. Build unity. We need to work together, Ethan told the Alliance Council, standing at the center of a crowded room filled with humans and aliens. This isn't just a human problem. This isn't just her fight. This is our fight. Many still feared Calvaria, even as she stood silently behind Ethan. Her armor dull and powered down, some refused to meet her eyes. She's destroyed more than most of our weapons combined, one alien said. Yes, Ethan replied. And now she wants to save more than any of us ever could. Calvaria stepped forward and spoke. I did not ask for your trust, only your cooperation. If you wish to survive, we must work together. Her voice was steady, calm, not a threat, not a demand. And slowly, heads began to nod. The Alliance approved the plan. Calvaria would lead a team of human and alien scientists to build a defense one that used both ancient knowledge and modern ideas, deep underground in a hidden lab. The work began. Ethan watched as Calvaria explained energy flow to human engineers and shield design to alien builders. She moved with purpose, not just as a warrior, but as a teacher. She knows things we've never seen before, one scientist whispered. And she shares it without holding back, another added. Ethan smiled. That's because she's not here to command. She's here to protect. As days passed, a new kind of ship took shape. Not a warship, not a weapon, but a hybrid. Fast, flexible, built with old technology mixed with human creativity. Calvaria helped test every part. She trained pilots, taught strategy, even offered advice on power sources. People began to respect her, not because of fear, but because of what she gave them. Hope. In the evenings, she sat with Ethan, quiet but present. You seem different, he said once, handing her a mug of warm tea. I feel lighter, she said, studying the cup. Maybe because you're not carrying everything alone anymore. She nodded. Perhaps. On the outer rim, a message came. A small planet was under attack. This time, the Alliance responded. Fast. The new ships launched. Calvaria led them, but not as a goddess of destruction. She led as a commander working with others, guiding without shouting, moving with purpose. Ethan stayed back at the main hub, managing communications. You sure you don't want to be out there? Someone asked him. I trust her, Ethan said simply. She's not just fighting, she's leading. The battle at the rim was different than before. The Voidkin met resistance, not chaos, not fear, but coordination. Human fighters moved in patterns they had learned from Calvaria. Alien ships supported them, forming shields and drawing fire. Together, they pushed the enemy back. It wasn't easy. The Voidkin adapted fast. But this time, so did the Alliance. At the front, Calvaria stood on the command deck, giving calm orders, her eyes sharp. Move the third wave to the left flank. Tighten the shields. Do not chase. The commanders followed her without hesitation. In the end, the Voidkin retreated. For the first time since their return, they lost. The Alliance ships landed. Cheers broke out across the base. People hugged, cried, laughed, but Calvaria said nothing. She walked off the ship and stood at the edge of the landing field, watching the sky. Ethan found her there. You did it, he said softly. We did it, she replied. He smiled. See, working together wasn't so bad. No, she said quietly. It felt right. Ethan stood beside her. They believe in you now, because you did first. She replied. There was a quiet between them, a peaceful quiet. Cal, single quotes VARYA looked at him. I used to think strength came from standing alone. Now I see it comes from those who stand with you. Ethan nodded. Welcome to being human. They both smiled. Above them, the stars shone bright again. The warning came in the middle of the night. Alarms echoed through the base. Red lights flashed. Soldiers rushed to stations. The sky above turned dark. Not from clouds, but from the arrival of the Voidkin fleet. They were coming, and this time, they brought everything. Hundreds of black ships appeared on scanners, covering the stars. They didn't send a message, they didn't wait. They only moved forward, fast, and without fear. Ethan stood beside the main screen, staring at the impossible number of enemy ships. That's not a fleet, that's an ocean. Calvaria entered the command room, her armor glowing, brighter than ever before. Her expression was calm, but her voice was firm. They want to end us here. This is their final strike. The Alliance leaders were already preparing. The new hybrid ships were ready, and ground defenses had been placed all around the base. Pilots geared up, scientists ran checks, and officers gave their final orders. Calvaria stood before the gathered soldiers and engineers. This battle will not be easy. We are outnumbered, but we are not broken. Not this time. We stand together, and together we will not fall. Cheers rose from the crowd. It wasn't just noise, it was belief. Ethan pulled on his gear. You're going out there, aren't you? She nodded. I must lead them. Then I'm coming too, he said. You are not a soldier. I'm your friend, he replied. I'm not leaving you alone. For a moment, her face softened. She didn't stop him. As the Voidkin approached, the skies lit up with energy. Ships launched from the surface, flying into formation. Calvaria stood at the front, her armor shifting into battle form. She carried no weapon, she was the weapon. The enemy ships opened fire. The ground shook. Lights flickered. Dust filled the air. But the Alliance didn't back down. Cal single quotes Varya flew forward, leading a squad through the center. She moved like lightning, cutting through the Voidkin with perfect precision. Her strength shook the enemy lines. Pilots followed her lead, striking in patterns she had taught them. Ethan was in a support ship, giving updates and keeping systems stable. He watched her fight from the screen, his hands shaking slightly. She's pushing them back, one of the officers said. But they're adapting, Ethan replied. She's taking too many hits. Suddenly, Calvaria's voice came through the comms. They've brought a null core. It's draining my systems. Can you pull back? Ethan asked quickly. Double quotes no. If I stop now, we lose the center. I have to destroy it. You'll burn out, he warned. Then I burn. Before he could reply, her signal cut. Calvaria charged the heart of the Voidkin fleet. Her armor cracked, sparks flying off her limbs. But she didn't stop. Using all the energy she had left, she launched herself into the massive null ship. The explosion shook space itself. For a moment, everything went still. We've lost our signal. Someone whispered. Double quotes no, Ethan said, stepping forward. Scan again. Seconds later, a small escape pod appeared on the screen. Damaged, falling, but still alive. She's alive, the technician shouted. The Alliance forces regrouped quickly. With the null ship gone, the Voidkin started to fall back. Their patterns broke. Their strength faded. The final wave was pushed back by the united force of humans and aliens. After hours of battle, the sky finally cleared. The Voidkin were gone. The war was over. Ethan ran into the medical bay. Calvaria lay on a support bed, armor cracked, systems low, but her eyes still glowing softly. You did it, he said, standing beside her. We did it, she whispered. You saved everyone. I saved you, she said, her voice faint. Ethan smiled. You scared me, you said. I didn't have to be scary, she said with a small grin. He laughed gently. I remember, outside, people celebrated. Lights filled the sky, not from war, but from joy. The galaxy had faced the worst and survived because they had stood together. And at the center of it all was a goddess who had once been feared, now honored as a hero. Weeks passed after the final battle. The base, once full of fear and smoke, now stood tall with banners, music, and smiling faces. Children played in the halls. Officers walked without panic, and workers rebuilt what was broken. Life had returned, and so had hope. But in the quiet corners of the medical wing, Calvaria rested. She had survived the explosion, but the damage was deep. Her systems were slow, her armor dull, and her strength barely returned. Even so, she had not vanished. She had chosen to stay. Every day, Ethan visited her. "How are you feeling today?" he asked one morning, bringing a small bag of fruit. "Slow," she replied, sitting up slightly. "But alive. Alive is good," he smiled, peeling one of the fruits. "You ever try this?" She took it carefully, studied it, then bit gently. Her expression was unreadable at first. Then, slowly, her lips curved. "Sweet," she said. Ethan laughed. "Told you." Each day, her systems healed a little more. But something inside her had already changed forever. She no longer saw herself only as a protector or a tool of war. She saw herself as something more. "The galaxy knows your name now," Ethan said one evening, showing her a small screen. "They're calling you a hero." Calvaria looked at the videos. People across different planets were cheering, lighting lanterns, even painting her image on buildings. "I do not understand," she said. "They're thanking you," Ethan replied. "You gave them a future." She looked at him, eyes calm. "You gave me something first." "What?" "The chance to be more than a weapon." Ethan didn't reply right away. He just sat beside her, feeling the quiet. Outside, a ceremony was being prepared. The Alliance wanted to honor Calvaria with a medal, the highest title of peace and protection. But she hadn't yet said yes. "Are you going?" Ethan asked. "I do not know." "Why not?" "I was made to fight," she said softly, "not to be praised." "You were made long ago," he said gently. "You've become something better." Later that day, she stood before a mirror, looking at her reflection. Her armor was repaired now, but she had removed most of it. Underneath, she looked more like the being she once hid, one with feeling, with memory, with choice. At sunset, she walked with Ethan toward the gathering. People from every world stood waiting. Leaders, soldiers, families, even children. As Calvaria appeared, they clapped and cheered. She didn't speak at first. Then she stepped forward and raised her hand. The crowd grew quiet. "I have destroyed many things," she said, "but today I stand for what we saved." Her voice was soft, but it reached every heart there. "I was created to fight," she continued, "but I have learned true strength is not in how much power one holds. It is in how we protect those who cannot fight. It is in unity and kindness and trust." She looked at Ethan, and in friendship. The crowd erupted in cheers. The medal was given to her, not as a symbol of fear, but as one of peace. After the ceremony, she sat with Ethan under the stars. "Do you ever miss the old days?" he asked. "No," she said. "I had no one then. You have people now. I have you." He smiled. "So, what's next for the galaxy's strongest protector?" She paused, thinking. "I want to explore, not for battle, but to see what else is out there. Beauty, life, or stories. Need a partner?" She looked at him and gave that small, rare smile he'd come to treasure. "Yes," she said. Together, they boarded a small ship, a peaceful one. No weapons, just supplies and a course set for unknown stars. As the engines hummed to life, Calvaria looked at the open sky. She was no longer a weapon. She was no longer alone. She was Calvaria once. Call the war goddess. Now remembered as the one who smiled when someone finally said, "You don't have to be scary with me."